Right. Good evening, everyone. How are we all doing? So, as you guys voted for it, once again, we are back with Alpharius. And yeah, the plan is to try and get as much done on him as possible in terms of painting. Thankfully, Hamish, who has commissioned me to paint this model, really wants me to try and capture the way I paint my Alpha Legion normally. So this is my Dynap model. And I'm basically going to try and do this, but better. Because it's been quite a few years since I painted this one. But the core principles are still the same. And I think I can do a better job now. Even though I would hardly say this looks bad. The first thing we're going to do is prime the model. And what I've done is I just super glued little bits of sprue to each component to make it easier. And yeah. So we'll put Alpharius and the bits which are going to be metallics to the side for a moment, as these bits need to be painted first, I think. Oh, unfortunately, in terms of like painting tutorials, like this can be done with a paintbrush and primer. But for me personally, I'm going to be doing this with an airbrush, so sorry if that's a bit of a disappointment for people. It does make this look a bit nicer, I think. So for the these, but actually we can throw the bases in here as well. These ones we can start off with brown primer. And the primer of choice for these sections will be German Red Brown from Vallejo. Work some into my airbrush and get going. Start off with the Imperial first. And the trick here is to make sure that everywhere that would be visible is primed, and not necessarily the underside. Doesn't matter if there's a bit of paint on the contact points, we can always sand them down. But the real focus here should be with that really visible areas of this one are primed. It's very important when working with resin to make sure you get a good coat of primer on anything you're painting, as resin doesn't stick as well, but paint doesn't stick to resin as well as it does to plastic. So using an actual primer, paint designed to stick to stuff, is very important. Whether that's a spray can or imperial primer or something like that with paintbrush, or in this case, you know, an airbrush primer and layer. Very important to make sure that you do cover the model properly and fully any area. So move those off to the side, and I need to clean up the airbrush momentarily. Move on to the next color. There's one thing I found recently is that Tamiya paint thinner is really good for just blitzing and cleaning out the airbrush. And it's not that expensive either. Even if you don't use Tamiya paints, it's probably a good idea to pick up if you have an airbrush. I know some people use it for enamel, not enamel, acrylic paints as thinner, and I can totally see why. I'm just not sure it's the way I'd go about thinning paints. So, for all of the armor, we are going to use a gloss. In this case, the Gloss Black Surface Primer from Vallejo. And it's very, very important for the way I'm painting Alpharius that we use a gloss black for this. Like, it has to be gloss and it has to be black for the next steps to work. Yeah, gloss primer is a. I generally use gloss primers quite a lot, even for stuff that doesn't necessarily need to be gloss. So I found that the glossy finish really helps level things out, so it actually makes a pretty good base primer. But yeah, it does make well, the readability of the model not quite as good. Yeah. We'll get onto explaining why it's good for metallics in a moment. Yeah, how's everyone doing in chat? Hope you're having a good time. Nice. And hey Hamish, how's it going? So that's the priming done. Just realized I have a pretty nice like burnt gradient on my nail. That's gonna look interesting once that's all cured. Right. Next step is to build up the color on the capes, I think. Or do I paint the Imperial Fist? Do we paint the fist, the capes, or the terrain? Which one first? You know, I really should like start like learning how to do nail art, I think. Because I think it would be fun to paint my nails up in like the theme of what other armies I'm painting, assuming I'm not using the airbrush. I'm going to immediately annihilate them. Hey Mick, thanks for popping by, and hopefully you enjoy a movie. If you've got a few moments, what movie are you going to watch? I'd love to know. June. Ooh, yeah, I loved June. You're going to have a really good time. It's one of the best movies I've ever watched. I think it's safe to say. I could barely remember any of the first film going into part 2, but thankfully you don't necessarily need to remember that much in detail, which I was quite relieved about. Definitely one of the best cinema experiences I've ever had as well, I think is a fair statement to say. The sound design and just the pure cinematography of that film is incredible. I've never felt as immersed in a film, like because of the sound design, as I was from the 2 June films. And it's like, I've been talking about this with a couple of friends over the last couple of days. I still feel the sound of the orthocopter from the first film. Like, that's something I can still, like, physically feel from my experience in the cinema. And the sound design and, like, the use of Dolby Surround in the second film is even better. If you haven't gone and watched Dune, part 2 on the cinema. You really need to. It's an incredible experience if your movie theater is set up correctly. Like, you know, has like decent speakers and a good quality screen. It was incredible. Alright, back to what I'm painting. As I suppose that's kind of for why we've gone to an IMAX for it. Yeah. I wanted to go for a warmer tone for the capes on this guy. Is talking to Hamish about how he wanted it, and he wanted me to kind of go for what I did with my Alpha Legion, with white capes and stuff, and I feel like it would look good with a bit more of a warmer tone to it, like slightly more warm, a bit more cream, and yes, Mick, you absolutely should. But for the time being, going to a good cinema is also a very good solution. And yeah, so back to a model again. I've been hoarding lots and lots of different shades of cream for painting stuff from Tamiya. So I have a bunch of nice shades of paint, and what we're going to try and do is slowly build up the layers. Tiny bit of paint thinner in the brush. Generally speaking, I found you don't need to thin Tamiya paints, but because we're trying to do so many thin layers to build up the cape, it's going to be quite important for us to do this. And we'll just remove the Imperial Fist for now, because we're painting him in a different style. We don't need to put as much effort in. As mean as that sounds to say. As we're following someone else's way of painting that model to a degree. Within the limitations of what I actually have access to. Okay. Some that pressure there. Mix the thinner in by just blowing the air back through the airbrush. And to make sure it's thin enough, we're actually going to use the base, because the base is going to end up a completely different color. We're basically just preparing it. Yeah, that actually looks perfect already. That was the first model, and we're going to do very, very directional painting. It's going to be kind of difficult to show you, but the shadow's going to be left that browner colour for now. And what we're going to do is we're going to continue to do layer upon layer. Oh, but thankfully in a way that's not going to mess it up. Yeah, just by using an airbrush, you can see like how it's already just made those shadows. Like, it kind of feels like cheating to do capes with an airbrush occasionally. What I'm doing right now is tracing the iPhone. Using the airbrush, throwing its way down, picking up the edges, the raised section. We do ultimately want to get this to conclude as a white color, but as near as white as possible. We are going to mostly remove the brown. By layering the pan color, well, buff, as it's called. We're doing this largely by just letting the airbrush do its thing. By focusing on the raised areas, the airbrush is actually going to spray a little bit wider, and that's going to eventually fill in the areas around it with the color we want. Those areas in which light realistically wouldn't touch, they're still being left that browner color. now. Go back to the base for a moment. The base are not going to be as precise because it's going to be mostly painted over a contrast paint. All we're really doing here is just making sure there is some kind of contrast between the upper layers and the lower layers. And clear up the brush again. And this is when the magic happens, as we'll now be switching back over to the stuff we painted black to do the magical stuff too. Stuff that's really core to this color scheme. Would I put the paper as using to clean out the airbrush? Okay. So make sure it's definitely clean before we accidentally contaminate the special paint. Let's move those out of the way to dry. We don't want these contaminated either. Alright, the secret sauce to making this entire paint scheme work is Green Stuff World's Color Shift Metal Psychotic Illusions. And it's this paint which is why we have to use the gloss black on any pieces we want to be this color. Because gloss paints have a gloss black has a very unique benefit for metallics, as it's highly reflective and, well, black. These two things really help the metallic pigments really shine in acrylic paints. As metallics are incredibly thin and are completely at the mercy of what they're painted over. Which is why you generally have to put quite a few layers on anything you're not painting from a black job, and why black tends to look the best as like a base layer for it. And the gloss helps make sure that stays shiny as well because of how transparent metallic paints are. So, Paint Alpharius here. He's beautiful and glossy. So that's layer 1 of this paint. You know, let's just bring this over here to be, as clickbaity as possible. There we go. In center. Hey Faz, how's it going? and unfortunately it's pretty difficult to apply this paint with a paintbrush. Even for little small details like this, I'm still going to have to airbrush. Perfect. I'm gonna try and see if I can force the effect to happen by having just bad lighting. Now you can vaguely see it, but this paint's designed so that depending on what angle light hits it, it shimmers purple, and that yeah, any model painted in this will either be blue in ideal lighting, purple in off lighting, or just black. And when you have a mix of lighting, you get all the different shades. If you put a matte varnish over it, it becomes less shiny. But the effect's still there, as long as it's a clear varnish over the top. I think you can get spray cans of this. I haven't checked in a while, but I do distinctly remember there being something to do with spray cans being made available for this. Don't quite want to hand it. But... It definitely is on the tabletop, Hamish. I've witnessed amusing arguments when I've gone and played with my Alpha Legion at my local gaming store over what color my Space Marines, my Alpha Legion are, because how the camera sees it, how I see it, are two completely different things because of where the light is hitting it in relation to you. And the color I normally see them as when I'm playing on the tabletop is black or purple. Whereas my opponents have typically, because of the way the tables are set up, see them as the pale blue color, as paint can be. And what you normally see when the light's shining on it. So, right now, you're seeing it as a blue on the stream. Yeah, it's kind of a bluey color. For me, it's mostly purple because of how the light's hitting it in comparison. So at that angle, you can see like there's like his thigh and stuff. It's starting to go a bit more of a purpley color. If I point the light that way, what does that do to our effect? Oh, that makes it even more blue. Also gives the purple an opportunity. Oh yeah, for green elements we're going to have to paint onto him. Right now he's very purple for me, and I'm not sure how to move him to make that happen for you guys. I wonder. If I turn the flash on. And that like actually this is the effect. Right, flashbang myself, there we go. I think that's as close as we're going to get. It looks significantly more dramatic in person and in natural sunlight. You're just going to have to believe me on that one, unfortunately, for now. It's a really, really cool, like, set of paints. And there's something really cool about seeing an entire army of this color as well. And it's kind of one of the this paint is one of the main reasons why I'll never get rid of my Alpha Legion army. I just love this paint too much. The main downsides to it is it really messes up your airbrush quite quickly. Come on. Keep focus. There we go. Yeah, there's quite a lot of different paints in this set, and we're definitely going to be using some of the other ones on this model as well. There we go. There we go. At that angle, you can kind of see some of the colours shining through. Yeah, it's like certain color sets are just kind of difficult to find. Like, I really have to shop around to find stuff. Like, I spent a very long time trying to find the perfect paint for doing Alpha Legion, which I think I have. And generally speaking, again, obviously I'm not sponsored by anyone, but the Vallejo range of paint is actually pretty decent for all the colours you kind of wish Games Workshop did. temporarily move that out the way. So we now have a very different color to paint at this point whilst we wait for the other things to dry. Add some sparkle to the kitchen towel. Something that will really need to make sure that the airbrush is very clean now. Now that. Oh, yeah, whilst there are now other paints and different ranges available, for one which I use for my Alpha Legion is Psychotic Illusions from Green Stuff World. Regardless of what your opinion is on them, I find this to be the best paint for doing Alpha Legion models. Bringing out the nuclear airbrush cleaner, just to really make sure that any of that metallic paints is annihilated. You really don't want that contaminating the rest of the model. Very much blasted through. That's the paint was about the airbrush cleanup as well. Not what's left into the frame, and using more to me a thinner just to spread out the airbrush. That's clean. Now, we get to use my least favourite paint to put for an airbrush. Gonna get some airbrush thinner. Some inner airbrush. Grab a bottle of paint. Find something to scoop the paint into the airbrush with. Hope that we can pour something. This paint is incredibly thick. whatever I don't use, I am going to put back into the pot, so I'm not too worried about using way too much, because making this thinner is just for the best anyway. Make sure it's thoroughly mixed by passing air back through the airbrush. Make sure it's even. Yeah. Of our Imperial Fist. So, impromptu Imperial Fist painting tutorial. If you are a fan of a certain content creator, he likes to use Avalon Sunset as the main color. Hey Mr. Jiggle, how's it going? But there's our Imperial Fist. Nicely primed in Avalon Sunset. Now, forget about him for a while. Generally, best advice when it comes to the Imperial Fist. Dump our back into a pot. This paint is far too thick anyway, so having a bit of airbrush thinner in there is hardly going to make things worse. If anything, it's going to make it significantly better. And we can put that back into the depths of hell where it belongs, and clean out the airbrush once again. That sounds like a very fun experience, Mr. Jiggle. Hopefully everyone's okay, and no, nothing was damaged by that. Turn the thicker paint is out of the airbrush. Fit with our base paints, no matter how much you thin them down, always like to clog up airbrushes. That's why if you are going to airbrush with Citadel paints, try and buy the air paints where possible. If not, use layer paints. But generally speaking, best advice is just don't. Give this a nice thorough clean. Oh, a life hack for those of you who don't know, window cleaner is really good for cleaning out airbrushes. I can't remember who originally made a YouTube video of it, but it's a great airbrush. That's good, Mr. Jiggle. I think so. Just make sure that you definitely clean the airbrush out afterwards, I guess. I haven't tried vinegar. I'd assume it would work because the nature of it being an acid. Yeah. I have 3 different chemicals I use depending on what I'm doing. So if it's really aggressive, nasty, sticky stuff, I have a can of this Spraycraft airbrush cleaner. It's a very harsh solvent, which is very effective for when you need to do a deep clean. And then for end of the day, or if I just need something to quickly clean out between paints, this is just the cheapest window cleaner I could find on Amazon. It works well. And then for like cleaning the cleanant out, I found X20A thinner from Tamiya to be the best, like, just rinsing chemical. Because it's an alcohol-based product. And then I also have my metal sculpting tools around as well, because saying this, Citadel base paints are just a bane of my existence when it comes to airbrushing. You always just get chunks of dry paint. So, yeah. And I did that and then realized pretty quickly I wanted an airbrush for my night house. So we've used X57 buff. Something slightly lighter for the capes, which will be deck tan. Thinner in. Take the paint a bit. Generally speaking, I've found that to me is just perfect for airbrushing. Because you, they don't really separate. And most of the time you can get by with just applying them straight out of the bottle. For what we're doing, I want it thinned down a bit. Alright. I don't think there's, like, I'd want to paint any model with just one airbrush or, It's like I found, like, the best way for me to enjoy painting models and for me to, like, get the best results, I kind of need to use both. Like the step we were doing before on the cake, what I'm doing is just tracing over places that will naturally get a highlight. And basically just like, yeah, highlighting. Oh, that's the correct template. There it goes. There we already have. Now that we naturally have those coloured shadows. And as we get closer to white, less, well, more and more subtle. Highlight. And now not to be subtle at all with the base. Play some layers, getting it closer and closer to the white. What we want for the contrast paint. Has everyone had a look at the pre-orders for this week? So what do you think of them? So the Warhammer The Old World Orcs are now available. Well, will be available for pre-order. The Solar Auxilia stuff is available. Will be available. So the Malkador Alpha Pattern Lehman Russes, the Dracosan Infantry section, and the Heavy Sentinel. And most of the, I think all the Orc units are available, as well as their army book supplement. Too much dry paint in the nib. Yeah, I'm still impressed you actually went through doing that, Hamish. Like, you didn't just set up your airbrush. Yeah, I don't envy you for having to build a second Warbringer. Yeah, I'm really not sure like how much I would even be like comfortable like charging as a commission for one, because I'm still kind of traumatized of large resin projects and building a Warhound. Honestly. Oh, I just threw it all in my bathtub. That's what I did. Right. I think we can put the airbrush down for a moment. Bring back Alpharius. God, I love this paint so much. It's like, for me, he's very purple right now, with blue highlights. Whereas to you guys, he looks kind of more like greeny blue, like more of a sea blue. It's really cool having the two different angles I get to win. Right, so what do we do next? I think the next thing is to revisit our Imperial Fist friend. So, for the next step in painting an Imperial Fist, in the way that other YouTuber does for his orange Imperial Fists. He would now apply Lamenter's Yellow Glaze over the model. I unfortunately do not have Lamenter's Yellow Glaze, but I do have Imperial Fist Contrast. This on and over. Armor panels. Including the bits that are brown. I go to a sci-fi convention. Depending on how my uni handles my schedule, I either have 4 hours of sleep and then 14 hours of seminars, or 10 hours of sleep, 0 hours of seminars the day after. What? How does that work? And yeah, there you go. There's your incredibly yellow Imperial Fist. Don't worry, we'll still make him orange. Yeah, we'll get there. yeah, to recap, prime the model with a brown, then paint most of it with the Avalon Sunset, and then glaze it with Contrast Imperial Fist. That's a recipe for Imperial Fist Yellow. Put in get about right. What bit do we tackle next? Well, he's about to have a pale spear put through him, so you know, I don't really fancy his chances too much. Helps if I check my hobby desk first before panicking about where stuff is. Next thing to do is to apply the colours to the base. Because we're not leaving it that colour. So a lot of the base colour will be impacted by washes, weathering, and sand, and well, yeah, weathering pounders and enamels. But to get it looking in the right direction, what we're going to do is apply some contrast paint. And for that, we're going to use Basilicanum Grey. This Imperial Fist is in dire need of more bullet wounds. Join the War Master today in order to help make that happen. Only with your help can we eradicate all Imperial Fists from the galaxy. Okay, I know this is like very much in an ugly stage right now of the terrain. This is an important step towards making it look good. Where's that? How are we doing for time? I think it's actually a good point for us to wrap up the stream, because we're now getting to a point where we need to start painting the silver trim on Alpharius. Working out what colour to do the details on his cape, as there is a tiny bit of trim on the bottom, which is going to be horrific to try and paint. Hopefully you guys can actually see the shading that we did. The airbrush, yeah, you can see it. Also got our Imperial Fist ready for some shading, and we still need to paint that bold head at some point as well. But yeah, he's looking very yellow right now. We need to shift that towards red a few hues, I think. So that's something for next time. The terrain will take a while, so we need to do some dry brushing to that once it's dry. And yeah, we also need to work on the pale spear as well. So far, only the hands are, well, somewhat painted. We need to paint the green shaft, and then also need to decide how we're actually going to do the spear tip as well. I'm tempted to use some of the different color shifting paints we have on the pale spear to really like it in that it's unnatural, not human, rather. And yeah, I think that can wait for next time. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hopefully you've had a wonderful time. It's been good to see like as much progress as we do actually get. Oh, come on, camera. It tried. Yeah, as much progress as we have got done today. Alpharius is starting to look amazing with the colour shifting paints we applied to him. I might do another layer off stream, just to try and get even more pigmentation down to make him even more shiny and the effect more dramatic. There we go, hold him like that. Yeah, so as always guys, make sure to join the Discord server, as like today was a day in which the Discord community voted for what we do. There's actually a tie between Alpharius and building some Mechanicum units for the Horus Heresy. I figured as we already had Alpharius on our desk, it's probably a good idea to just keep with that. Yeah, so !Discord in chat or in the description beneath the video if you're watching it over on YouTube. And yeah, make sure to hit follow or subscribe depending on what platform you're on if you want to see more progress on this. I will put together a playlist over on YouTube for Alpharius. So if you are watching this and you want to see like how it was built, or you want to see how the detailing goes on him, you'll be able to see that in the playlist once it's available, and well, once I've actually done it. And yeah, if you want to support me and you want to help out, currently trying to use YouTube well, streaming as a job at the moment, which is fun. So if you want to help out, you can support me via Ko-fi. It's the best way to do it. I do take commissions and to work on projects like this. This one is for Hamish, who's been hanging out in chat. So if you'd like to see me build and paint a model for you, feel free to reach out to me. It is currently behind the Ko-fi membership, so Ko-fi memberships are like only £1 a month at minimum, so you know, you can support me at whatever level you want via Ko-fi and get access to cool stuff for it. And yeah, I think that's it for today. So thank you guys so much for joining me. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, or day, depending on what time it is. And I'll catch you all tomorrow for some MechWarrior 5. Have a good one.